So what I also wanted to spend a bit of time on, now that we're in this, what we all refer to as the new normal, was a little bit about where the jobs are hidden. Because in the last few weeks, I've been speaking to a lot of graduates, and I've been hearing a lot of people say, I'm going through the job boards, I'm looking into, and the Indeeds, the Reeds, the Total Jobs, the CV libraries, and there's perhaps less to go after in some occasions, although it is starting to build back up, but definitely in the last few months, there was a perception that there was a bit less to go after. However, the jobs in your market, they are actually a little bit hidden away. And the reason behind that is that companies themselves make products which they don't have a need to market to the general public. So I've used an example at the middle. So filling up your car with petrol, okay? When you do that, you're buying, obviously, petrol, but you're also buying several different chemicals. You're buying isopropyl alcohol, you're buying T-butanol, N-butanol, anti-foam, anti-corrosion. And those products are all made by companies which occupy the perimeter of my slide. I don't know how many of these companies you've heard of, but it might surprise you to know that all of these companies are based in the northwest of the UK, or have sites within the northwest of the UK. In some cases, we're talking multinational businesses with sites throughout the world. Now, the reason why you don't necessarily know the above is the same reason why you'd never go to BP or Shell when you're buying a car and insist on a certain type of anti-foam or a certain type of anti-corrosion or a certain type of additive. It's because it's just there in the product that you buy. You don't have an interaction engagement with the business that made it. And that is a lot of the chemical market, and that is a huge amount of the pharmaceutical market. They have no need to market their products to the general public. They leave that up to the Shell, the BP, etc. to do that. So the same applies for the process of drug development. Again, we could talk about countless additive manufacturers here, analytical consultancies, contract development companies, contract manufacturing companies. If you're a customer and you're taking a tablet that's been made by a well-known pharmaceutical company, it's not going to say anywhere on that product or that packaging that the company that handled the development was an outsourcing agency that happens to be 10 minutes down the road from you. So what do we do about that? Well, first of all, we need to acknowledge that we've got a bit of a visibility problem of companies. So these businesses haven't got any interest in saying to you, I am here, average member of the public, I'm here, because they've got a limited marketing budget. Money is finite. You can only spend it once. And if you're making a product which is, let's say, for example, an anti-corrosion agent that is there to go into a car engine oil, you've got very little reason to tell the general public about that. So you don't, you tell the person that's going to buy your products about that, but that's pretty much who you tell. However, they do make their presence felt. And the good news is there are a lot of them. In fact, I did some research on this. There are 2 times as many chemical or pharmaceutical companies operating in the UK as there are McDonald's restaurants. And it was, at the time I wrote this, it was an exact 1-to-2 relationship. So there was a report that came out by the Department for Practicing the EU where they'd surveyed all the small to mid-scale pharma chem companies in the country, and on the McDonald's website they'll tell you how many restaurants they've got. So as of yesterday it was 1,300, and there were 2,500 chemical companies in this report. So the frame of mind to put this in is, for every McDonald's restaurant you see, there are 2 employers potentially out there for you. Now, I want you to think about that. Think about your hometown. Think about where you are. How many of these restaurants do you have, and how many small to mid-scale chem or pharma companies can you name? That's your job now, is to find those businesses that are probably a little bit hidden and who could employ you, but potentially just fly under that radar because they don't market to you. They're tucked away on an industrial estate somewhere, 5 minutes from your house. They've got a laboratory, they've got a vacancy. Why not you? Why not you go for that? Okay. So let's talk about how you access those particular companies. First of all, I've written a blog on this, and it goes into a lot better detail about how to do that. But there are certain websites that these companies will put themselves on. The one at the top is a company called UCAS. Now, what UCAS do is they issue a certificate to companies to say, you do a particular test or activity to a certain standard, and we're going to certify that to say that we approve effectively of what you're doing with our certificate. And then you can take your certificate to people and say, look, I do this testing really well. Give me that testing to do, and we'll do that for you. So it's kind of a stamp of approval. On that certificate, you usually have a lab manager, and you usually have their email address. So that can be a really good way of connecting to a business, is just to go onto this website, search geographically for companies in your area who are operating using certain types of testing, and then email them and say, I'm out there, you know, I'm looking for my next opportunity. There are also organisations who are like little clubs, and what they do is, I'm going to do them a massive disservice here, but the companies like organisations like BioNow, Chemicals Northwest, Chemical Industries Association, what they do is they kind of congregate everybody together, and they say, okay, so we can all meet up and we can network and we can, you know, do activities which benefit our market. But what they also do is they produce lists of their member organisations. So if you go onto the BioNow website, you will see a list of BioNow members, and a lot of them are small and mid-scale companies who, again, you may not have heard of. I'm on the next one, where to buy chemicals. That's just a list of where to buy different chemicals. So if you want to buy some N-butanol, they will tell you where to go. And these different chemical organizations are all listed on the Where to Buy Chemicals website. Do you know what? It doesn't have to be that complex. You can just go on Google Maps and you can Google pharmaceutical companies in your town, and it will bring up companies that you could apply to. And then finally, I put in there contract farmer. So that's a huge directory of pharmaceutical companies. And again, you can go through that and you can see who's out there, who can I, potentially go and work for. So that brings us to the end of our presentation. So I wanted to open up to any questions. I don't know if there were any particular burning questions out there from that, or any comments, etc. I will be following up with blogs and with tweets and other such things. But thank you so much for your time today. It's been an absolute pleasure to present on this to you, and I hope that you've picked up a lot of knowledge that's going to be beneficial.